Hello and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nushaira Shahira and my teammates Umi Aisha, Alicia Aura Batrisha, and Muhammad Razin Aniki will be present about muscular hypertrophy. Okay, first and foremost, we will start with what is the objective of this topic. First of all, is to define what is the meaning of muscular hypertrophy. Secondly, is to know what is the causes of muscular hypertrophy. Thirdly, is what is the effects of muscular hypertrophy, and fourth is what kind of exercises that can help to develop muscular hypertrophy, and the last one is to know what type of athletes that need to develop muscular hypertrophy related to the type of the sports. So next, Alicia or Patricia will be present to you all what is the meaning of muscular hypertrophy.
Assalamualaikum and hi. Our group will present about muscular hypertrophy. I will tell you about definition of muscle hypertrophy. Muscle hypertrophy is the term for growth and increase of the size muscle cells. The most common type of muscular hypertrophy occurs as a result of physical exercise such as weightlifting, and the term is often associated with training. When you work out, if you want to improve your muscle, lifting weight is the most common way to increase hypertrophy. There are two types of muscular hypertrophy, which are myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic. Myofibrillar, which means the growth of muscle contraction parts. Myofibrillar training will help in increased strength and speed. Myofibrillar hypertrophy refers to when the number of myofibrils increases. This causes muscles to increase in strength and density. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy means increase muscle into glycogen storage. Sarcoplasmic growth give our body more sustained energy for endurance athletic events. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy refers to increase in volume of this fluid. It can make muscles become larger, but it does not increase strength. It contains ATP, glycogen, creatine, phosphate, and water. So, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy occurs when the volume of sarcoplasmic fluid in our muscle cells increase. For example, when weightlifting, we can perform many repetitions at a lower weight or lift a heavy weight for fewer reps, means repetitions. The way you lift will determine the way your muscles grow and change. Basically, myofibrillar represents the increase of muscle fiber called myofibril. Myofibril is formed. The unit rod muscular cells is called the myofibrillar protein network and increase energy. For sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, the result of exercise performed by bodybuilders. Glycogen storage aims to enlarge muscles, and muscles continues to store glycogen so it looks big and dense. What is the difference between myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy? According to this hypothesis, during sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, the volume of sarcoplasmic fluid in the muscle cells increases with no increase in muscular strength. Whenever during myofibrillar hypertrophy, actin and myosin contractile proteins increase in number and add to muscular strength, as well as a small increase in the size of the muscle. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is greater in the muscles of bodybuilders, while myofibrillar hypertrophy is more dominant in Olympics weightlifters.
Okay, so we moving on to the next part, which is the causes of muscular hypertrophy. There are five. The first one is they increase the number of myofibrils. Okay, what does cause of the myofibrils increase? It is because a biological effort to repair or replace damaged muscle fibers begins with the satellite cells fusing together and to the muscle fibers. Second, it can disrupt the muscular hypertrophy. What does it mean by the sentence? It means that it can interrupt the growth of the muscular hypertrophy. Other than that, it can cause muscle weakness during mid-adulthood. The symptoms usually start in the hands and feet before moving to the center of the body. Next, it increase in the nerve impulse that cause muscle contraction. Why does the process happen? It is because the chemical message, also known as the neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, it binds to receptors on the outside of the muscle fiber. That starts a chemical reaction within the muscle. The muscle will contract during an exercise. The type of exercises that will increase the muscle contraction, such as weightlifting and deadlift. These exercises which leads to an increase in the number of contractile filaments within your muscle cells. Okay, the last one is the muscle fibers repair after the workout while the muscles are resting. Okay, when you exert stress on your muscles, it damages the muscle fibers, which can cause them to break apart. It is important during recovery, these fibers heal stronger than they were before, which in turn make your muscles stronger. Okay, for the satellite cell repair, based on my understanding, as you guys can see, there's a quiescent satellite cell. Quiescent satellite cell, which means is inactive satellite cell. It contains myonuclei and it also contains sarcolemma. Okay, then okay. In example, if we do a resistance training, our muscle fiber will be damaged. So when our muscle fiber damaged, uh, the satellite cells will be active and proliferation. So after the proliferation and the satellite cells active, the chemotaxis will be occur on the damaged cells. Okay. After the damaged cells occur by the chemotaxis, it will fuse to the damaged myofiber hypertrophy, which means hypertrophy means increase in size. Other than that, it also can fuse into new muscle fibers, which is called hyperplasia, which means hyperplasia is increase in numbers. So increase in numbers. So hypertrophy increase in size, while hyperplasia increase in numbers. Okay, for the next step is regenerated myofiber with central nuclei. Okay, for the effects of muscular hypertrophy, the first point which it entails entails a greater metabolic stress. What does it mean? It is mean more mitochondria means greater use of oxygen to produce more ATP and energy. This can reduce the metabolic stress. Next, which is the increased caloric expenditure, which may aid weight loss. Because resting energy expenditure accounts for 60% to 75% of the calories you burn each day. Any increase in resting energy expenditure is extremely important to your weight loss effort. Second, muscles increase in strength and density. Other than that, the muscular hypertrophy also can increase the size of the muscles. Other than that, it will increase symmetry. In other words, avoids muscle imbalance. Okay, what is muscle imbalance? Which is avoid trying to build a huge muscles in one area. For example, if lifting weights or performing a specific exercises like lunge, always do the same number of reps on both sides of the body. Okay, the fifth one is the skeletal muscle, mitochondrial abnormalities, implicated in the pathology of chronic disorders such as diabetes, obesity, and peripheral arterial disease. Okay, in other words, this means muscular hypertrophy will improve the skeletal muscle mitochondrial abnormalities. Uh, so, the skeletal muscle mitochondrial abnormalities, it will help us to reduce chronic disorders such as diabetes, obesity, and peripheral arterial disease. Okay, the last one is increase the intake of protein in our body, which will enable the occurrence of muscle hypertrophy. Um, Muscle protein is maintained by a balance between synthesis and breakdown. When synthesis is higher than degradation, muscle hypertrophy is induced. Um, Therefore, exercises and subsequent protein ingestion are important for muscle hypertrophy.
Thank you to Muhammad Razin Aniki for explaining what is the causes and the effect of muscular hypertrophy. And now this is my turn to talk about what type of activity that help us to develop muscular hypertrophy. As we all know, from the definition that defined by Alicia or by Trisha about muscle hypertrophy have two types, which is myofibrillar hypertrophy and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Myofibrillar hypertrophy can be developed by doing strength training, while sarcoplasmic hypertrophy need to do weightlifting activities in more or high intensity. Myofibrillar hypertrophy can be occurred with heavier loads and lower schemes of repetition. For example, the repetition in the range of 3 to 8 range, and the resting time is 2 to 4 minutes, and it's allowed to produce largest changes in myofibrillar volume and density. The heavier weight you lift, it's allowed more muscles are recruited and damaged. And the intensity of the training should be in the range of 80% of your one repetition maximum. Next is about sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy can be known as fatigue training that because it allows high intensity training with short rest period. For example, the high intensity training, the repetition is in the range of 10 to 15 repetition and the resting time is 45 seconds to 90 seconds rest. Other than that, we will talk about on how or what is the tips to develop muscular hypertrophy. Firstly, is use a reps and rest cycle, where the research have found that weightlifters aim for 6 to 12 reps per set, and it's allowed to 60 seconds to 90 seconds between set of period time to rest, and it helps to lead for the muscle damage and the muscle fatigue. So it's allowed the muscle to be repaired like satellite cell repair. Next, lift enough weight but not too light, where you have to lift the weight that is allowed you to gain the heavier weight, where the heavier weight lead to the muscle damage and the satellite cell repair too. Next, vary your exercises or activities, where you have to make it variety to allow multiple fibers in the same movement in a circuit could be fired up. Okay? The last one is consider working with a trainer, where you have to work with a trainer to help you, to support you while lifting the weight, and helps you to design the training program regarding to your goals or objectives, such as you want to have a good appearance or you want to achieve hypertrophy for your sports performance, like that. Next, I will pass to Umi Aisha. Thank you.
Okay, next is benefit of muscular hypertrophy training. Okay, the benefit is to develop strength, to prevent injury prevention, and to improve athlete performance. And the last one is to have a better physical appearance. Okay, the next slide is muscular hypertrophy relates to the situation. Okay, when we do a weightlifting, you as the weightlifter can perform many repetitions at lower weight at lower weight. But if you lift a heavy weight for you are doing that in fewer reps. It is the way that to determine that your muscle grow and change. Okay, for the example, you can develop muscle tone which are lighter weight, but it will require a higher number of repetition to improve efficiency of your muscle fiber, unless you perform a number of repetition to the point of fatigue. Okay, then if you are using a heavy weight, is an effective way to stimulate growth and definition in muscle fiber. Efficient way to work out if you are short on times. Okay, the next point is when you are doing weightlifting, you also need to have both mechanical damage and metabolic fatigue. It is when you lift a heavy weight, the contractile proteins in the muscle must generate force to overturn the resistance provided by the weight. This can result in structural damage to the muscle. The mechanical damage to muscle protein stimulates a repair response in the body. The damaged fibers in muscle protein result in an increases in a muscle size. Okay, then mechanical fatigue occurs when the muscle fiber exhausted the available supply of ATP or an energy component that help your muscle to contract. Okay, they are not able to continue fueling muscular contraction or can no longer lift the weight properly if the muscle fiber are exhausted. Okay, this is lead to the muscle gain. Okay, Both mechanical damage and metabolic fatigue are important for achieving muscular hypertrophy in our body. Okay, you are not necessarily need to work your muscle to the point of what we call failure, which means that you are unable to follow through the repetition to get the result you want. So we just you cannot just do the exercise to the extraordinary. You must do it in the slow one, macam like there are improvement towards the exercise. The next slide is how often to lift to achieve a muscular hypertrophy. How often to lift to achieve muscular hypertrophy is depend on your goal. Okay, for the first one, if lifting, especially heavy weight, for 3 days a week, which means that this is allows you a day in between session to let your muscle recover, so that the muscle recovery is essential for muscle growth. Okay, next is lifting 2 days a week. It is depending on your muscle. It is depending on your current fitness level. Okay, the last one is alternating between upper body lifting and lower body lifting on different days. It is to allows you to work on different muscle while allowing time for rest and recovery.